I walked up the familiar driveway after my business trip to Denver, my heart light with anticipation for my 28th birthday celebration. The October air was crisp, and I could already picture the cozy family gathering my sister Samantha had promised to organize. We had always been close, looking out for each other since childhood, so when she offered to handle everything while I was away, I felt grateful and loved. But something felt off this past week. Samantha had been avoiding my calls, giving short responses when she did answer. Now standing at my front door, I could hear loud laughter and music coming from inside my house. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from and hit that like button if you have ever felt excluded from your own family. Subscribe to hear more stories about the power of self-respect, because what I am about to share will surprise you about how I stood up for myself. I slid my key into the lock and opened the front door, stepping into what should have been my sanctuary. Instead, I found myself face to face with about 20 people scattered throughout my living room, dining room, and kitchen. Everyone was eating, drinking, and having an amazing time until they saw me. The room fell silent instantly, as if someone had pressed a mute button on the entire gathering. Eyes darted away from mine, conversations stopped mid-sentence, and I could feel the tension thick as fog. There on my dining room table sat a beautiful chocolate birthday cake, decorated with pink roses, and my name written in elegant script across the top. Balloons in my favorite colors hung from the ceiling, and I could see gift bags lined up on the side table. This was clearly my birthday party, but somehow I was the only person who had not been invited to it. Samantha appeared from the kitchen, her face flushed, and her eyes wide with what looked like panic. She rushed toward me, stumbling over her words as she tried to explain. "Isabella, oh my goodness, I completely forgot to call you. This whole thing just happened so spontaneously. I mean, I was planning to invite you, but then people started showing up and I got so busy with preparations." Her explanation sounded hollow, even to her own ears, and I could see her hands shaking as she gestured wildly. I looked around the room again, this time recognizing faces I knew well. There was Amanda, my best friend since college, standing by the window with a guilty expression. My brother Marcus was near the kitchen, avoiding eye contact entirely. Even Sarah and Jennifer, my old roommates from university, were here. These were not random people who had shown up spontaneously. These were people from my inner circle, people who knew how much birthdays meant to me. "Samantha," I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt inside. "How exactly does someone forget to invite the person whose birthday party they are throwing?" The room remained silent, and I could feel everyone listening to our conversation. Some guests were slowly gathering their things, clearly uncomfortable with the situation they found themselves witnessing. Amanda finally spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "Isabella, I am really sorry. I thought you knew about this. Samantha told us you were planning to celebrate separately this year." The confusion in her voice was genuine, and I realized she had been given a completely different story about my absence. Marcus cleared his throat and stepped forward, trying to defend our sister. "Come on, Isabella, you know how busy you have been with work lately. Samantha was probably just trying to organize something nice without adding pressure to your schedule." But even as he spoke, I could see doubt creeping into his expression. Several of my longtime friends looked genuinely uncomfortable now. Mrs. Peterson, my elderly neighbor who had become like a grandmother to me, quietly gathered her purse and coat. "I think there has been some kind of misunderstanding here," she said gently, giving me a sympathetic pat on the shoulder before heading toward the door. Two other friends followed her lead, mumbling awkward goodbyes as they left. As I watched them go, pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. I remembered strange moments from the past week that had not made sense at the time. Samantha had been evasive when I called to confirm details about my birthday plans. Marcus had seemed nervous during our brief phone conversation 2 days ago, cutting it short when I mentioned coming home. Even Amanda had been uncharacteristically quiet in our text exchanges. Then I remembered something else. 2 weeks ago, Samantha had asked me if I wanted a really special birthday this year, something different from the usual family dinner. I had told her I would be happy with anything she planned, trusting her completely to make the day meaningful. Now, I was beginning to wonder if this exclusion had been intentional from the very beginning. I decided to stay at the party to understand exactly what had happened and why. Most of the remaining guests were clearly uncomfortable, but they were not leaving, which told me they were more invested in this situation than I had initially realized. I moved through my own house like a detective, listening carefully to conversations and watching people's reactions when they thought I was not paying attention. While helping myself to some food from my own kitchen, I overheard Samantha on a phone call with our mother, who was traveling in Europe with Dad. "She finally came home, Mom," Samantha was saying in a low voice. "Yes, she knows now. I think she is really upset, but maybe this will help her understand some things." The conversation sent chills down my spine. This was not an accident or oversight. This was planned. I approached Amanda, who had been my closest friend for over a decade. She looked relieved when I sat down next to her, as if she had been waiting for a chance to explain. "Isabella, I need you to know that I questioned this whole thing from the beginning," she said, her voice earnest. "Samantha told everyone that you said family gatherings felt like obligations, now that your career was taking off. She said you wanted people to celebrate without feeling like you had to host or entertain." The words hit me like a physical blow. I had never said anything remotely like that to anyone, let alone to Samantha. I loved hosting gatherings and had always made time for family events, even during my busiest work periods. "Amanda, I never said any of those things. I was looking forward to celebrating with everyone. I have been talking about this birthday for weeks." Amanda's face went pale. "Oh no, Isabella. She also said that you told her you felt like people only included you out of pity because you work so much. She made it sound like you wanted to see who would celebrate you when you were not around to organize everything yourself." The more Amanda revealed, the more calculated this entire situation became. I found Marcus in the backyard, standing alone by the fence. When I confronted him about what Amanda had told me, he became defensive, but also revealed more disturbing information. "Look, Isabella, Samantha has been really struggling lately. She lost her job last month, and she has been feeling like everyone in the family thinks she is a failure compared to you. She kept saying that you always get everything easily while she has to fight for scraps." This revelation stunned me. I had no idea Samantha had lost her job, and she certainly had never talked to me about feeling competitive or resentful. If anything, I had always looked up to her creativity and her ability to bring people together. "Marcus, why did no one tell me she was struggling? I would have done anything to help her. But how does that justify lying to everyone and excluding me from my own birthday party?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "She said she wanted to prove that people cared about you for who you are, not just because you always pick up the check or host the events. She thought if she organized something without you, it would show you how much people genuinely care." His explanation sounded rehearsed, as if he had been practicing this justification. The more I learned, the more I realized this was not about proving people cared about me. This was about Samantha wanting to be the center of attention, to be seen as the one who could bring people together and make things happen. She had used my birthday as an opportunity to position herself as the family organizer, while simultaneously teaching me what she saw as a lesson in humility. I decided to call my parents directly. When Mom answered, she sounded surprised to hear from me. "Sweetie, are you not at your birthday celebration? Samantha told us you wanted a quiet evening this year, and specifically asked us not to call tonight." Another lie. I had actually been hoping to video chat with them before the party started. "Mom, I am at the party, but I was not invited to it. Samantha planned my birthday party and did not tell me about it." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then I heard Dad's voice in the background getting louder as he realized what was happening. "Put me on speaker," Dad demanded, his voice tight with anger. When I complied, he continued, "Samantha told us you were going through a phase where you did not want family attention on your birthday. She said you felt overwhelmed by expectations and wanted to celebrate privately this year. Isabella, we would never have stayed away if we knew the truth." The final piece of the puzzle came when I overheard Samantha talking to one of her co-workers who had come to the party. "I just think Isabella needed to learn what it feels like to be left out for once," she was saying. "She has always been the golden child, getting promotions and praise, while I struggled to keep my head above water. Maybe now she will appreciate what she has, instead of taking everyone for granted." I had heard enough. I walked directly up to Samantha in front of everyone remaining at the party. "I know you did this on purpose," I said clearly and calmly. "I know you lied to our parents, to our friends, and to Marcus about my feelings and my wishes. I know you used my birthday as an opportunity to make yourself feel better about your own situation." Samantha's face went through a series of expressions from denial to anger to resignation. Finally, she snapped. "Fine. Yes, I did it on purpose. You needed to learn some humility, Isabella. You walk through life getting everything handed to you while the rest of us struggle. I wanted you to see how it feels to be forgotten and overlooked for once. The remaining party guests watched our confrontation with a mixture of shock and fascination. Some people began gathering their things more urgently, while others seemed frozen in place, unsure whether to intervene or leave. I felt completely betrayed by the sister I had trusted most in the world, but I also felt something else rising within me. Determination. I looked around the room at the faces staring back at me and made a decision that surprised even myself. Thank you for being honest, Samantha. Now I am going to be honest too. I refuse to accept this treatment, and I am not going to let you ruin my birthday. I turned to address everyone in the room directly. I am going to leave now and organize my own birthday celebration. Anyone who wants to join me for a real party where the person being celebrated is actually invited is welcome to come. The room buzzed with whispered conversations as people tried to figure out how to respond. I walked calmly to my bedroom, grabbed my purse and a change of clothes, and began making phone calls. First, I called my favorite local bakery, which fortunately was still open for another hour. Hi, this is Isabella. I need a birthday cake for tonight. Yes, I know it is last minute, but it is an emergency. The baker, who knew me from years of custom orders, agreed to help. Next, I called Tony, a DJ who had worked several of my work events. Tony, I need a huge favor. Can you set up at Skyline Rooftop Bar tonight? For a birthday party, I will pay double your usual rate. Tony, bless him, was available and excited about the short notice challenge. I called the Rooftop Bar and spoke to Maria, the manager I had worked with for company events. Maria, I need to book your space for tonight. I know it is incredibly last minute, but I can guarantee at least 30 people and full food and beverage service. Maria managed to accommodate my request, moving a smaller party to the enclosed patio area. As I made these calls, I noticed Amanda had followed me into the bedroom. Isabella, I am so sorry I did not question this more thoroughly. I should have called you directly when something felt off about Samantha's explanation. Her regret was genuine, and I appreciated her honesty. Marcus appeared in the doorway looking conflicted but resolute. I am coming with you to the real party. This whole thing has gotten out of hand, and I should have spoken up sooner. His decision to support me meant a lot, especially since I knew it meant going against Samantha. Within 2 hours, I had completely reorganized my birthday celebration. The rooftop bar was transformed with string lights and beautiful city views. The cake arrived right on schedule, decorated with vibrant flowers instead of the subdued pink roses from the original party. Tony had the music pumping, creating an energetic atmosphere that matched my newfound determination to celebrate myself properly. About 35 people showed up to my impromptu celebration. Some were friends from the original party who had decided to follow me, but many others were people I called directly once I started organizing. Co-workers who respected my dedication, neighbors who had become genuine friends, and even some family members who drove in from nearby towns once they heard what had happened. The contrast between the two parties was striking. At Samantha's party, I had felt like an intruder in my own life. At my own celebration, I felt surrounded by people who genuinely wanted to be there for me. The conversations were livelier, the laughter was more authentic, and I felt celebrated rather than tolerated. Samantha did show up at the rooftop bar around 10 p.m., looking defeated and carrying a small gift bag. She approached me cautiously as if she was unsure of her welcome. Isabella, I came to apologize. I realize now how wrong I was, how much I hurt you, and how badly I handled my own feelings. I listened to her apology, but I was not ready to simply forgive and forget. Samantha, I appreciate you coming here, but an apology does not undo the planning and lying that went into today. You made calculated decisions to hurt me, and you involved other people in those decisions. This is going to take time to work through. She nodded, tears in her eyes, but she did not argue or try to minimize what she had done. I understand. I just want you to know that seeing you take control tonight, seeing how many people really care about you, has made me realize how wrong I was about everything. She left the gift on the table and quietly departed, giving me space to enjoy the rest of my evening. The party continued until nearly 1 a.m., filled with heartfelt toasts, genuine laughter, and the kind of connections that make birthdays meaningful. People told stories about times I had been there for them, shared memories that I had forgotten, and expressed appreciation for qualities I had not even realized they noticed. The days following my birthday were a mixture of emotions I had never experienced before. I felt proud of how I had handled the situation, but I also felt deeply hurt by Samantha's betrayal. The realization that my own sister had harbored resentment toward me for months, maybe even years, without ever talking to me about it, was almost more painful than the party incident itself. I spent a lot of time reflecting on my relationships and trying to understand how I had missed the signs of Samantha's struggles. I called several mutual friends and family members to get their perspectives on the situation. What I discovered was that Samantha had been expressing dissatisfaction with her life for a while, but instead of seeking support or making changes, she had been comparing herself to others and building resentment. My parents cut their European trip short and flew home within 3 days of learning what had happened. Mum was heartbroken that she had been deceived, and Dad was angrier than I had seen him in years. They both felt guilty for not being there to prevent the situation, even though they had been given false information by Samantha herself. The support I received from friends and extended family was overwhelming. People reached out to express their shock at what had happened and their admiration for how I had handled it. Amanda became an even closer friend through the experience, as did several co-workers who had witnessed my grace under pressure at the rooftop party. I made some important changes in how I approached relationships after this experience. I started being more direct about asking people how they were doing and creating space for honest conversations about challenges and frustrations. I also became much better at setting boundaries and not automatically accommodating behavior that made me uncomfortable. At work, I began delegating more responsibilities and stopped feeling guilty about my success. I realized that Samantha's resentment had made me question whether I deserved good things in my life. But the birthday incident taught me that I should never apologize for working hard and achieving my goals. The most significant change was in how I viewed family dynamics. I stopped assuming that love automatically meant understanding or that good intentions excused harmful behavior. I learned to appreciate the family members who showed up for me consistently, rather than making excuses for those who did not. About 6 months later, Samantha reached out to me with a much more thoughtful apology. She had started therapy to work through her feelings of inadequacy and resentment, and she wanted to take responsibility for her actions without expecting immediate forgiveness. She had also found a new job and was working on building her own sense of accomplishment, rather than comparing herself to others. We began rebuilding our relationship slowly, with clear boundaries and honest communication. I never forgot what she had done, but I appreciated her commitment to changing the patterns that had led to such harmful behavior. Our relationship today is different from what it was before, but it is built on a more solid foundation of mutual respect. The experience taught me that sometimes the people closest to us can harbor feelings we never suspect, and that healthy relationships require ongoing communication and attention. I learned that standing up for myself does not make me selfish or ungrateful, and that people who truly care about me will respect my boundaries and celebrate my successes rather than resent them. Most importantly, I learned that I am worthy of being celebrated, included, and treated with respect, especially by my family. I discovered that I have the strength to create the kind of relationships and experiences I want in my life, rather than simply accepting whatever others decide to offer me. Now, whenever someone tries to make me feel guilty for prioritizing my own well-being or celebrating my achievements, I remember that rooftop party where 35 people showed up to celebrate me on 2 hours' notice. I remember the feeling of taking control of my own narrative and refusing to let someone else's issues diminish my worth. The birthday that started as one of the most hurtful experiences of my life became a turning point that taught me invaluable lessons about self-respect, healthy relationships, and the importance of surrounding myself with people who genuinely want the best for me. Sometimes the most painful experiences become the catalyst for the most important growth. Have you ever had to stand up to a family member who is treating you poorly? How do you handle people who try to dim your light because they are struggling with their own? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and please hit that like button if this story reminded you of the importance of valuing yourself. Subscribe for more stories about finding strength in difficult family situations, and share this video with anyone who might need a reminder that they deserve to be celebrated. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it encourages you to never let anyone make you feel unworthy of love and respect, especially on your special day.